Welcome to our Grand Strand weekly web chat. We're into October. It's not just baseball teams seeking playoff berths, but high school football teams are on the road to region titles. We just got one guest, I guess just have one guest in the house trying to do proper English and grammar with our beat writer here. Ian Guerin of the Sun News. Are you ready to carry a show by yourself?
I know. Should we put an extra chair right here and just talk to Matt like he's still here? I'm confused.
Yeah, Matt Paris has a prior engagement. He said he was interviewing Mark Richt. Is it right?
I don't think you can argue that Mark Richt is more important than we are here at the webcast.
Yeah, he has to do that for the radio station, so probably already aired by the time you watch this. So sorry, ESPN Radio Myrtle Beach. Anyway,
spoilers.
Yeah. Let's get to it. You know, we're in week 7 coming up, but before we talk about week 7, let's look back at week number 6 and all the results that were. Lee Central knocking off Andrews. Andrews is struggling, 26-21. Dillon defeated Ainer, 47-12. I think both of us called that one, at least for Ainer to fall to 4-2 against Dillon University. Carver's Bay, quite possibly the underrated, overlooked surprise team so far, would you say?
Yeah, I mean they have bounced back hard, 5-1 now, and right now I don't think there's a better team in Region 7A right now. I mean they may end up winning out. It's going to come down to them and Timmonsville at this point. Yeah,
they've beaten some good teams like Georgetown and St. James, which is a 3A school. Georgetown and St. James. That leads us to our next score. The Bulldogs knock off the Sharks, 35-20. Just quickly, let's talk about this game here. Another fourth quarter win for Georgetown. It seems like Caleb Hughes put up some good numbers, 275 yards passing, a little more efficient. You think they have a chance to maybe get second place in 3A Region 7?
It's going to be tough, but I think they have to be in the running. They did that against St. James after losing their star tailback 4 carries into the game.
Lunsford's hurt?
Yeah, Julian Lunsford is hurt. I think they're going to know by probably later today whether or not he's going to be out a week or two. But so Caleb came in and had a pretty good game when he needed to. So that's a good sign for a Georgetown team that a lot of people were kind of forgetting about, especially earlier after Myrtle Beach and Socastee started the way they did.
St. James, on the other hand, Trey McCollum, 6 catches, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns, as recorded by your statistician that was on campus there. That kid's pretty big. Have you ever seen him in person?
Yeah, he's a monster. He's a big kid. He's got some, he's got decent hands. And this was something that Mark Fisher said earlier in the year, that they wanted to try to throw the ball in certain situations. He's a single wing guy, and they're always going to run everything out of that. But he's going to mix in a little spread, and if he's got somebody that large to throw the ball to, you find a way to put the ball in his hand.
I'm impressed by his talent. I think it was week 1 or week 0 when St. James played Loris, and I was like, "Why are you going to throw to this kid? I mean, he looks big."
You kind of have to.
And he's like,
Yeah,
my secret.
Right, just in case you didn't notice the 6'4" kid standing there towering over everybody.
Exactly. Other score, Loris 56, Marion 0. So all that last week about Marion being that team that could come back and get second place in that region that I said. And, I think it was the Swamp Foxes had a little bit of injuries compared with just a monster night for Loris.
Right, 56 points, all of them in the first half. They went to a running clock in the second half. It took about 28 minutes of real time to get through that second half, and I'm sure Marion was just fine with that. Loris was dominating on both sides of the ball. Those numbers came in, and they were huge for a full game, let alone for 2 quarters of football.
Souls threw 5 completions.
Right.
For 219 yards.
Right,
what is that, 44 yards?
Yeah, 44 yards a completion. That's pretty good right there.
All right, our second graphic that continues results from week number 6. Mullins knocking off Waccamaw 40-8. So Waccamaw kind of heading back to the pack as they start, their region play. Myrtle Beach 54, Wilson 21. Myrtle Beach dominated that entire game, it seemed like.
Yeah, just a ho-hum 5-touchdown performance for Tyler Keene. They're probably going to have to, browbeat him a little bit in practice this week after having such a horrible game.
Exactly. We'll talk about Myrtle Beach more in a second. Socastee, both of us were at the Socastee North Myrtle Beach game. North Myrtle Beach didn't have their running back. It seems like, their offense really was in a funk. They didn't really have their normal schemes going because Delonzo Williams was out. But Saukesty, you got to give them credit. You know, they put it to them offensively. You know, the speed of Renfro really paid off in this game.
Yeah, I mean, they had an okay game offensively. Saukesty did. They only ran for about 300 yards, which is about 100 less than what they're used to. And I say only. I mean, they only throw the ball typically 3 to 5 times a game. So they do run up a lot of big numbers on people. What they did do against North Myrtle Beach, which was more impressive to me, that when North Myrtle Beach made that little mistake, Saukesty pounced on it, and they made them pay. A couple big returns, on blown coverages, on punts, on kickoffs. There was a bad punt where a bunch of North Myrtle Beach guys thought that it had been blown dead.
Or rolled out of bounds.
Yeah,
or whatever.
rolled out of bounds. Eric Mortel looks around, picks it up, and walks it 21 yards into the end zone, and it's no big deal. So, I mean, they made North Myrtle Beach pay, and that's what they're going to have to do this week as well, and probably a couple more games down the road.
It's crazy because special teams play such a big role in these games, and we don't think they do. We're just like, everyone kind of overlooks special teams, especially when it just comes to the general consensus of the public. But if you look at the highest level, NFL, the Vikings won 20-6 against the Lions this past week.
Percy Harvin with 106-yard
kick return, and then the other touchdown was a punt return.
Right.
So they won a game. On college level, it happens all the time where special teams plays a big role. Look at the South Carolina Gamecocks with Ace Sanders against Missouri.
It happens.
And then you got teams like Saukesty that capitalized, teams like Myrtle Beach that has won games because of special teams. Don't overlook the special teams, plus the place kickers.
Well, the kickers are big, and I feel like we've talked about that quite a bit. The big difference, I think, on special teams are the teams in the area that put their best athletes on special teams. I mean, it'd be like Conway, if you saw Mikhail Moody and Malcolm Green, both back there on a punt return or a kickoff return or something like that. Those are the guys that can make people miss, and all they need is a little sliver, and then all of a sudden you've got a long return, and the game is completely turned on its head. So some of the teams in the area do that a little bit more than others. Some teams just simply can't afford to have guys who are already going two ways playing special teams as well. It doesn't. Some teams just can't afford to do it.
Doesn't bother Hunter Renfro though.
This kid doesn't do everything. So.
All right, let's look at like we did last week. We kind of take a look at region champs for the other two regions. We're going up to Class 4A, Region 6, and this is the big one with 4 teams in our WBTW viewing area and 2 teams in the Sun News print region area. Here's how it stacks up right now. West Florence and South Florence both 5-1 in non-region play. Conway and Sumter 2-4. Carolina Forest, they are 1-5. West Florence, they are your defending region champs, the surprise team, were the Knights last year. Let's just throw it out there, Ian. I think that any one of these 5 teams can win this region title, and I can say that with a straight face.
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of people thinking that the 3 at the bottom, with the losing records, are completely ruled out. I mean, obviously they've got to fix some things in a hurry. I mean, they only have 4 region games, to make an impression here. I think obviously, the 2 at the top have got to be your front runners, and I think Conway's got to be in that mix as well.
I think West and South has just West Florence's number. So I would say, my opinion, I'd give South would be my pre-region play champ. I'd say South is going to take this region title. They have the speed. And the funny thing about this thing, Myrtle Beach has beaten 4 of those 5 teams.
Right. I'm kind of wondering if they could have squeezed Sumter into that mix too. Myrtle Beach could maybe be 5-0 in Region 6 4A.
So I'm taking South as first place team, and Conway, West Florence, Sumter, I'm taking them as a dogfight for second. I'm thinking Conway's going to come out with second place. We're breaking down second place now. Now, then West Florence will get third place, and I'm saying, Sumter, then Carolina Forest. Carolina Forest, they're just kind of young right now, and just seems like I don't know if they can turn this around. They've played such a tough schedule.
Right, and you look at the numbers, some of the offensive numbers that Carolina Forest has put up. They're doing that with a sophomore quarterback who's played 6 games, and they're going to lose this week to Goose Creek. I mean, I don't think you could put an all-star team together of this region that would beat Goose Creek.
Easy.
They're 15th in the nation right now in the USA Today Super 25. They're that for a reason. They've won 19 straight games, all of them by double digits. That's what Carolina Forest is facing this week. That said, Carolina Forest is going to be really good here in the next couple of years because that quarterback, his arm is getting stronger, his decision-making ability is getting better. He's got a lot of really young receivers to throw to that are kind of, trialed by fire right now. It's just not their year this year.
All right, I gave my region prediction. I know I've given you like 20 minutes. I texted you. I'm like, hey, think about who you're going to pick to win the region.
I'm buying as much time as I can. Right now, if I had to do it, I would say South Florence, Conway, West Florence, then Sumter, then Carolina Forest, in that order.
Wow, we're in agreement.
I can't believe it. The stars have aligned.
All right, so that's a little bit of a 4A Region 6 breakdown. Now let's look ahead now to this coming Friday night, week number 7. We have 2 games of the week, both of them involving Grand Strand teams, ironically. Socastee taking on Myrtle Beach, 6-0 against 6-0. We're going to talk about that in 1 second. Let's just quickly get to the Conway-West Florence game. You're picking Conway in this game. I'm taking West Florence. Tell me why I'm wrong.
I'm trying to figure out how Conway finishes ahead of West Florence if you think Conway is going to beat them this week. That'd be a really tough tiebreaker.
No, it'll happen.
Okay. And it's a possibility. Conway.
Remember how crazy it was last year?
Oh my God, it was nuts. It was like a three-way tie there for a little bit, and something very similar this year could happen. I mean, it could be South, West, and Conway all finishing 3-1 in the region.
Very well could be that
the one thing that I don't like, Conway's chances is that 3 of their 4 games are on the road in the region. It's just a weird.
That's not fair.
It's just a weird quirk. Carolina Forest gets 3 at home. The other 3 teams all get 2. 2-2. As far as this game specifically, Conway at West Florence this week, Conway's had 2 weeks to kind of rest up a little bit. Also, to stir. I mean, they had 2 shootout games. They had the 42-40 over Marlborough County, and then they lose 56-55 to Myrtle Beach. They obviously have a very, very good offense. They're going to need it, but at the same time, they've had a couple weeks here to rest up and get their key pieces, back in order for West.
I think Conway's going to have to outscore West Florence if they want to win. If this becomes like a defensive battle, that definitely favors West Florence. Marquand Goodman's their quarterback. His arm's getting, we talked about, who'd you talk about? Will Brunson's arm at Carolina Forest. This kid's arm, he's a sophomore as well. It's getting better as game goes on, and, he's got a little bit more wheels than Will Brunson. They got a great running game. They've got tall receivers on the outside, so they're going to test those Conway cornerbacks. So I just think it's too much. West Florence is going to be jacked for this game, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think if West Florence does, what they did last week, I think they were up 21-0. At the end of the first quarter. If they get into any kind of a roll early and Conway has to start throwing the ball on every play just to try to keep up, I think that's when they're in trouble. But if Mikhail Moody, has some time and he can make some things happen with his feet, I think they can kind of turn that over a little bit.
And then you have the other matchup that everybody in the Grand Strand's talking about and everyone's looking forward to. It's Socastee taking on Myrtle Beach. 2 6-0 teams. This one's just fun. I just got back talking to Mickey Wilson and company over at the Seahawks weightlifting class. My favorite little time of day to go over there, apparently. Favorite has to be Myrtle Beach. They're 6-0. They've played teams that have the speed that Socastee has. They've played teams with faster speed, bigger guys, and they've beaten them, and they found a way to win. So that being said, I think we both can agree on that. How can Socastee pull off this upset? Because it will be an upset if Socastee is 7-0 after this week.
They're going to have to, force a turnover or 2. They're going to have a big special teams play. But more importantly, when they are on offense, they are going to have to, take advantage of some of those long drives. I mean, everybody is enamored with the 75-yard Hunter Renfro run, when he's untouched. At the same time, that doesn't put any pressure on a defense the next drive out. I mean, if all they're doing is chasing a kid for 6 seconds as he runs down the field, well, the next time, they're still physically ready to go. They need to put a couple long drives together early in the game, pound on that defense a little bit, and make sure that they know that, like, hey, you're not going to push us around. That's what Myrtle Beach has done to everybody for years.
And Socastee, I mean, they're not like the most dominant offense. I mean, there was multiple times, even in the North Myrtle Beach game, it was 3 and out. Even their first, I think it was the first 2 drives, Socastee was struggling, at least first 1 drive.
Well, and it was funny. In the North Myrtle Beach game, they lined up the first play, and they basically attempted what was going to be a double pass instead of just lining up and running it, knowing that they have a scheme advantage over North Myrtle Beach. Tim Renfro said after the game he was trying to catch him off guard. they don't necessarily need to do anything fancy. They just need to kind of stick with what they do. If they throw the ball, 6 or 7 times in this game, it's either, 1, because they see an opening in that defense, or 2, they're trailing big and they're trying to play catch up.
It's tough because Sockesty, if they do want to throw the ball, they're going to be throwing against a defensive secondary that's probably more athletic than their receivers. I mean, don't take anything away from Zach Hyde or any of the rest of the guys, but I mean, you're going up against Jack Montgomery and some of those other guys. How's Chocolate? Is he back now?
No, he's still walking around. He's off the crutches, but he's still limping around practice a little bit.
Just an athletic, from the athleticism factor, Myrtle Beach has an advantage. Plus, Tyler Keene, you've touched on him, 13 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. He's confident. He's efficient. He's got a good arm. He knows the offense. Kid's, a brainiac as well. So, I mean, Myrtle Beach is looking really good.
Yeah, well, and I think for both teams, and we touched on this a little bit yesterday on the blog too, was that for both of these teams, they have no way in practice to mimic what the other offense does, and so really, I mean, it could become a very high-scoring game just because there's no way to prep for it.
Yeah.
There's no way Sockesty can have anybody imitate Tyler Keene. There's no way Myrtle Beach can have anybody imitate Hunter Renfro. It's not possible. So, unless somebody just comes out of nowhere and has a monster defensive game, I mean, it could be another high-scoring one.
That being said, Hunter Renfro, he's fast, but I think they seem similar speed. Like, Mikal Moody, if you line them both up,
right? But it's a matter of where Sockesty puts him. I mean, you saw last week a couple of times. I mean, all it takes is a little sliver where Myrtle Beach even isn't used to seeing that kind of offensive set. So
all right, let's run through the other Week 7 games quickly as we're already at the 15-minute mark. Kingstree at Andrews, Aner at Marion. You see Aner winning that game?
Yes.
All right, Carolina Forest, Goose Creek, you kind of already broke that one down. Carver's Bay should knock off Scotts Branches. They are pretty bad this year. Georgetown at North Myrtle Beach. This is a fight for third, basically. I see Georgetown going on the road and winning this game. I know, obviously, the health of Julian Lunsford is a big factor, but I see Caleb Hughes being able to throw the ball.
Right, I think Caleb's going to be able to throw the ball. North Myrtle Beach is also, not only is DeLonzo Williams banged up, still haven't heard officially whether he's playing. Starting quarterback Kendrick Furness is also possibly out too. He re-aggravated an ankle injury from earlier in the year. So, I think Georgetown's got the leg up on that game.
And the other games on the Week 7 schedule, Hannah Pamplico traveling to Green Sea Floyd's. Loris, 56-0 winner last week. They could hang another $500 on Waccamaw. Wilson takes on St. James. That's the other enticing matchup here in the Grand Strand. Wilson, they're on a downward spiral, and St. James, they're playing a lot of teams tough. I see that as a spot that St. James could pick up kind of a quote-unquote upset victory.
Yeah, and I think it's a very underrated game. I mean, both of those teams are they have to win. I mean, they can't afford to lose this one against each other if they have any realistic playoff expectations.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I guess that's just about wrap it up here. Yep. Any final thoughts on going into the week?
I'm excited to see what this crowd at Myrtle Beach is going to look like. Already selling tickets to Sockesty fans. Tickets for Myrtle Beach fans will open up on Friday. So
do you
going to be a lot of people.
Do you think this crowd could rival the Conway Myrtle Beach crowd?
Oh, I think so. It's homecoming for Myrtle Beach as well. Ooh. So they got a ton of people who normally don't come to these games that are going to be there watching kids in the homecoming parade at halftime.
Over or under 80 points?
Over.
90?
That's pushing it.
All right.
I'd say right around the 85 mark. I'd probably say right around there.
They'll have fireworks before the game. They'll have fireworks every time Myrtle Beach scores, and you'll see fireworks with a lot of touchdowns. I don't know. That was terrible, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Ethan?
We'll edit that out.
You like the Ethan drop?
Nice.
Nobody gets it unless you follow Twitter. All right, he's Ian Guerin of the Sun News. I'm Jeff Zell. No Matt Paris in the house tonight. Thanks for watching the weekly web chat. We'll see you back here next week.